Knicks are NBA champions, and Jalen Brunson willed the Knicks to an NBA championship. Many said he couldn't do it. Many said he was too small, too much of a cone on defense. So the only natural thing to do is to put that on the projections of the 2026 NBA draft class and say, hey, small guards, you're in. You're in. It's a new era. Small guards dominate now. First small guard guy is Kingston Flemings. People are pretty polarized by Kingston Flemings. I watched his game at Houston, and he appeared smaller than his measurements seemed. He measured in at 6'4" on Houston's website, on Basketball Reference, on a lot of things. He gets the combine. He only measures in at 6'2", but he did do a lot of things really well at Houston. You can see the impact both offensively and defensively you cannot replicate for a point guard. He's only 183 pounds, and as I mentioned, 6'2", but he's also only 19 years old. Flemings was immensely impactful for a Houston team and a coach in Kelvin Sampson that doesn't normally trust freshmen to take the reins of his offense and be a key component of that. With more of that, he was really good in the mid-range. My big worry for him is that his rim percentage wasn't all that good. He's just not there yet for the driving factor, but a really good shooter, a diehard competitor. He said after his loss against Texas Tech when he had 40 plus points, he said, well, it doesn't matter because we didn't win. So for NBA teams who want a winner, you look at what Jalen Brunson did. Obviously, Kingston Flemings has not won that much, but you imagine what he could do in 4 years of college. Instead, he's just going with the one after his stellar freshman campaign. And hey, small guards are in. Kingston Flemings should be really good. Next is pretty obvious, and Darius Acuff. Acuff's unbelievable. I've used the phrase with him, you don't pass on special. He's a Calipari guard who can score at every level of offense. He was arguably the most impactful player in college basketball on the offensive side of the floor. He's a good passer. He's good around the rim. He's good from the three. 44% from three is unbelievable on 9 attempts a game. That's unheard of. You pair in 6 assists. He's not insane on the turnovers, only 2 turnovers per game, which is a 3 assists to turnover ratio. High usage, high load, makes for super good on offense. The problem is, again, he's only 6'2". People worry about the level of effort that he gave at Arkansas with John Calipari. To me, the concern is there. But again, if you're getting an insane all-star level offensive talent, you just need him to be somewhat competent on defense. I don't like doing Trae Young comparisons constantly because not everyone is going to be that lackluster on defense to the point where it harms all levels of your team's game. I think if Acuff can even be a guy that just blends in on defense, his offensive impact ceiling is so incredibly high that he can seriously be a catalyst to a rebuild in this modern NBA. I look at him, some people have him lower, but I really think he can make big changes, whether that be in Chicago, whether that be with the Clippers, or whether that be at the Kings. I think those are 3 spots that he can really make his impact, dig his teeth in, and be a super, super high-level offensive player right from the bounce. Remember, this is a Calipari guard. This is the same guy who developed John Wall, who developed Derrick Rose, who developed Jamal Murray, and the list goes on. John Calipari makes good guards, and Darius Acuff is one of them. Egbuka Okori is another guy who I think is being immensely slept on. He averaged 20-plus points a game at Stanford last year as a freshman. He's only 6'1", 186 pounds, but I talked about how impactful Acuff was on offense. Okori kind of resembles that. It's not as powerful as in the SEC, but a really good offensive creator, can do it off the bounce. He gets to the rim a lot. The question is, how efficient can he be when he gets to the rim? We see high usage stats. We see good true shooting because he's able to do that, but it's really about whether he can be efficient. You can see only 56% from the rim last year. And then also on the defensive end of the ball, he's been better than Acuff. And for a lot of these small guards, you're not looking for them to be game changers on the defensive end. You just want to mix in a couple steals, and you just want them to not be an immense liability. You don't want the other team game planning to attack and go downhill at them every single time, because if you're getting buckets on one end and giving up buckets on the other end, you're in net even, right? You're net even. We need to be getting buckets on one end, which I think all of these guys can do. And it's just about how much you can limit that on the defensive end. For Okari, I know he can get buckets. That's been shown. And at Stanford, he was dominant in his freshman year. And he's another one of these young guards who happens to be small, but when you're good at basketball, you're good at basketball. And that's the kind of thing that I think Jalen Brunson is showing a lot of people. And although these guys don't have the counting stats in college that Brunson did, they don't have the time to develop. If you give these guys space and time, they can become game changers, and they already have been at the college level. LeBaron Philon is another one of these guys who just doesn't pop when it comes to the athletic intangibles. You know, he's 6'2", 176 pounds. Some people have likened him to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He doesn't have the same length that Shai does. He struggled at the combine in a lot of ways, but you go and check the tape, you go and check his stats from college, and in a tough SEC, he was really, really good on offense. You know, you think about a high impact player, someone who's constantly creating for his teammates, 97th percentile offensive box plus minus, 79th percentile rim percentage. He's a guy who shot nearly 40% from three on 10 attempts a game. Philon is insanely efficient. And I think it will be difficult for him to find that niche role in the NBA where he can be the number one guy. He was a sophomore at Alabama, so that's 2 years, but only 20 years of age. Philon, super, super impressive, and was a highly touted recruit for a reason. I think his playmaking is the underrated part of his game. 32% assist rate is super impressive. The defense comes into it again. I dislike how much of these prospects will end up being, what kind of system are you put in? How are you asked to be playing defense? Do you need to play defense to get on the court? You know, DeJounte Murray talks about a lot, is that's how he got on the court, is playing defense. And I actually look at Philon's freshman season at Alabama. He was a plus defender, 85th percentile in defensive box plus minus. Sophomore year, not so much, but his offensive game stepped up an incredible amount. So is it that effort thing? Can he not do both ends? Or is it something else where actually he just needs a little more time to hone both his offense and defense? Because if he can make both click, he can be a really, really key part of a team that likes to win, likes to run the floor quick, and likes to score the ball at will. Ryan Conwell might be the smallest combo guard you've ever heard of. Maybe you heard of him, maybe you haven't. He first came on my radar when he shot over 40% from three at Xavier the season prior to his senior season at Louisville. Conwell does a lot of things right, and he's a really, really quality scorer. He can do it off the bounce. He can do it off the catch. And that's what I like about him most. I think he's a guy, when you think about the age, right? And if we're doing Jalen Brunson things, he hasn't had anywhere near the success Jalen Brunson had in college. But if you think of a guy who can score, if you think of a guy who's being overlooked because of his size, Conwell's a 22-year-old guard, yes, but I mean, you look at some of these years prior, he's been immensely impactful on the offensive side of the ball. +3 at Indiana, plus 0.3 at Xavier. I mean, these are not pretty stats, but when you're looking at the end of this draft and maybe the start of the second round, I think Conwell can actually give NBA teams a little bit of that scoring boost when you think about small guards. For Conwell, it will again be a matter of how can he play without the ball in the NBA. I don't think he's good enough to be a lead number one point guard, but he can be a scoring boost for teams that need it. And if he can be a little bit of a defensive energizer, sometimes that's all you need to sort of notch it over the top. These guys, it'll be tough to find a niche in the NBA. It's difficult to be a small guard in this age, but Jalen Brunson is showing that new things are possible.